Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our webinar today. So we're going to give everyone a little bit of time to get into the webinar before we get started. I want to thank you all for spending some of your morning with me today to talk about this great topic. And we're going to give you a lot of good information today. So I am glad you were able to join us this morning. So I'll give a couple of more minutes for everyone to come into the room, into the webinar. So we want to welcome you this morning. So this is Foster Care 101 presented today, November 28, 2023. Our time together will be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. So thank you all for joining us today. So my name is Dr. Latrenda Watson. I'm the at-risk state coordinator here at TEA. I'm within the Highly Mobile and At-Risk Student Programs Division here at Texas Education Agency. I also have my contact information for you and also my email address. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us here at TEA. We're here to support you. Within this realm, I am the foster care and student success point of contact here at TEA. And I am also work with the pregnancy related services program. I work with the program portion along with Christina Page, who works with the accounting portion of pregnancy related services. So I do have a couple of things that I do work with here at TEA, but today we're here to talk about foster care and student success. So with here in our Highly Mobile and At-Risk Student Programs Division, we house many programs. So just want to let you know about our Highly Mobile and At-Risk Student Programs Division. We have our military connected students. We have our homeless children and youth. We have our child abuse and neglect, pregnancy related services, and also foster care and student success. So with all of these programs that are housed in the Highly Mobile and At-Risk Student Programs Division, we are here to support you, to increase your knowledge, and to provide you with great resources so you can work with our students. So we are highly committed to you, and we want to make sure that we increase those school experiences and those educational outcomes for all of our highly mobile and at-risk students in Texas public schools. So the objectives for today, we want to provide you with the clear, useful information with addressing the educational needs of students in foster care. We want to familiarize educators with the foster care system and also relevant laws and policies that will affect that educational experience of students in foster care. Then we also want to make sure we provide centralized information and resources to increase awareness and knowledge for the educators working with our students in foster care. So just wanted to provide that overview of what our objectives are for today. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me and that you are able to understand everything that I'm saying at this time. So please use the Q&A function. The Q&A function is the only way you're allowed to communicate with me. So thank you so much for coming today. So the agenda for today, we want to cover what is foster care. So we'll cover the basics of what is foster care. We will also cover data. We will talk about foster care and the law. So the laws regarding working with our students in foster care, what are we going to do? What are services we're supposed to provide? Information regarding that. Also the foster care liaison. I will talk specifically about the duties for the foster care liaison and what should be entitled, especially regarding the law of what foster care liaison should be doing. And then we'll talk about promoting student success. How can we promote that success for our students in foster care? And then lastly, we'll talk about a lot of resources. So I just want to make sure you stay on with me so you can make sure you get all of these resources so you can go back and share these resources. So before we get started, just want to make sure again, we are recording this webinar, so you will be able to go back and view this webinar. The webinar and the PowerPoint will be available on TEA's website under highly mobile at-risk student programs in our webinars. So we'll house the information there, so you're able. So if someone wasn't able to come today, it will be on our website. We hopefully within a week or 2 weeks, you'll be able to go on there, share this information, get the actual presentation PowerPoint, because we will upload that to our TEA website also. So if you have any of those questions of how can we get this information, we will be uploading it to the TEA website shortly after this presentation. So let's continue. What is foster care? So students in foster care refers to children and youth who are in the custody of the state of Texas due to either abuse or neglect, regardless of their living arrangements. So if they are having concerns about a student who's being abused or neglected, they are referred to, they are the custody in the state of Texas. So we want to make sure we have that clear. So those students who are in custody of the state of Texas are considered to be students in foster care. So that court grants that legal custody of the students to Department of Family and Protective Services if it is determined that the student cannot live safely within that home. So we want to make sure that you understand the purpose behind the students in foster care, because there had to be a situation to happen in order for them to be in custody. So that's why our students in foster care, we always want to pay close attention to our students in foster care, because a situation had to happen for them to come into custody. Next, the Department of Family and Protective Services. So we use our Texas DFPS. So within that realm, we want to talk about the word conservatorship, because it is the main topic behind what we talk about when we're referring to our students in foster care. So there is the conservatorship is used in Texas Education Code. It's also used in Family Code by DFPS to describe the status of a child who is placed in DFPS legal custody by the court. So you want to make sure you understand that portion of it. It is conservatorship. So that is the term you are looking for when you're talking about students in foster care. So is that student in conservatorship? That will determine if that student is in foster care. So the two terms that are defined by the Department of Family Protective Services are temporary managing conservatorship or permanent managing conservatorship. So temporary managing conservatorship is that the child may be in temporary managing conservatorship while DFPS works out the family towards reunification or providing an alternate plan in the child's best interest. So the majority of our students usually are in temporary managing conservatorship. So they're working on reunification, but they're still in conservatorship. And then permanent managing conservatorship, PMC, is referred to the DFPS may be named the permanent managing conservator for that child until the conservatorship is given to another individual, either a relative or through adoption, or until the child turns 18. So these are two terms that Texas DFPS are using when you're talking about conservatorship. So placement, foster care placement. So you have Texas DFPS, when they remove the student from the home, they are looking for several types of living arrangements for those students who they have conservatorship of. So they either look for a relative or a kinship caregiver, a close family friend that will be a good, safe place for that student. You also have family homes, foster family homes. You have residential treatment centers and emergency shelters, facilities overseen by another state agency within the Texas, adoptive family, or a supervised independent living SIL arrangement, especially for our older students who are still in conservatorship. So we want to make sure of that. that you have that information. So remember, there are I don't want to say handout because I'm receiving information, a question. The information within this, we will be providing you this information on our website. The actual PowerPoint presentation and the recording will be on our website. All of this information. So mobility, because this is very important to understand. So our students in foster care they are highly mobile children, and they may lose up to 4 to 6 months of emotional and academic growth and educational process as they're moving back and forth, because I just told you that our students have certain living arrangements. Some of those living arrangements may be for long term, some of them are short term. So that's why our students are highly mobile. So when a student foster care placement change, because they may change despite the protections that are in place, they may lose course credits, either repeating courses that are already taken, added into some inappropriate class and grade levels that are not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities, which none of this information should be happening for our students in foster care, because we have certain laws and rules in place that will help guard our students who are in foster care. So we want to make sure that we know the laws that are in place for our students and know what is done and how we can help our students in foster care. Also, it is very important to provide those supports to students in foster care on campus. So when they come to your campus, when they come to your district, what supports do you have in place? So we want to make sure we have that information. And I have a question, what placement types are usually TMC? All of the placement types that I had on there could be TMC, temporary managing conservatorship. So the whole last slide. So now the wheel of support. So this is very important, because remember, we have a lot of students who are in conservatorship. So we want to make sure that the student is in the center of all of our decisions that we have. So when you're making, when you have students in foster care who are coming to your campus, remember, it's not just you who is in the life of that student. There could be a lot of people who are in the life of that student who is helping that student and supporting that student through this process of being in conservatorship. So you have your family, you have the caregiver, DFPS caseworker, or the educational specialist, or PAL, or others that may be in the life of that student who you are working with to support that student. Remember, we're all here to support the student. The student may require therapy or medical services. The community, remember the school, you are part of that student's life as soon as they come to your campus. And then Guardian ad litem and CASA. It is good to know what all of these people are doing and how can they help this student. So within our foster care and student success guide, in chapter 4 on pages 45 through 50. So make sure, and I'm going to refer to our foster care and student success guide a lot. So please make sure you have information regarding all of these, because remember, the wheel of support, you need to know everyone who may be supporting that student and what do they do. So remember, chapter 4, you can go to chapter 4 in the foster care and student success guide on pages 45 through 50 to find out what each one of these supports do, what do they do in the life of their student in foster care. So please make sure you are looking at those pages and be part of that wheel of support. We're working together in order to support the student. Next, let's talk about data. Let's talk about data. I do have a question. So do you have the ability to see a student at your school who is in foster care on Power Schools? Now that is a local support. That is a local question. So how is your school district identifying students in foster care through your student information system? So that is a question that you should be asking your district's foster care liaison, is how are you doing it within your student management system, because it differs regarding different districts. See, different districts may identify it differently within your student management system. So please consult your district foster care liaison. So let's talk about data. Foster care identification, because that led right into this. That's why I went and answered that question. So it leads into how are we properly identifying our students in foster care? Because we want to ensure that we are maintaining our students in foster care and also meeting their needs, meeting their educational needs, their social emotional needs, their academic needs on while they're with us on the campus. So within the state of Texas, because this is information that we must provide to the United States Department of Education. We want to know this information in order to support our students. So first thing is from the 2021-2022 PEIMS data. So the PEIMS data that we get from every school in the state of Texas, you identified that student as foster care. Guess what? We pull that data and we collect that data. So from the 21-22 school year, we stated the district stated that you had 15,404 students who were identified as foster care in the PEIMS in your student management systems. So 15,404 students were identified as being in foster care. And you had proper identification saying that, and you labeled them foster care within your systems. So we also have a data share agreement with Texas DFPS where we share data in order to make sure we're supporting our students. So that's the whole purpose of that. So within DFPS, from the ages 5 to 18, they had 35,054 students within the ages of 5 to 18 that were in conservatorship. So that is a huge, huge data gap within our identification of the students and those students who are coming to our campus. So that's what we're in the process now of figuring out. How can we better properly identify the students who are coming to our campuses? How can we work with Texas DFPS to ensure that every student who is in conservatorship are in our schools, and we properly identify them once we get to our schools? So we are in the process of working through ways that we can find and we can maintain proper data with our students in foster care, because we want to make sure we help all of our students. So thank you all for those Texas DFPS and the relationship that we're building with them to ensure that our schools are meeting the needs of our students in foster care. So graduation and dropout data. This is information that we must report to USDE in order to make sure that we're assisting our students in foster care. This is very valuable data to make sure how are we assisting our students in foster care? What are we doing to properly identify those students? We want our students to graduate. So that is the whole purpose of meeting the needs of our students. We trying to get them to graduation and post-secondary. So our graduation rate within the state of Texas, so that the blue box under graduation 2022, remember this is the cohort of 2022. PEIMS information, this is information that is on TEA's website right now. You're able to go to the TEA's website right now and pull this data. Statewide graduation rates was 89.7%. So within that class of 2022 cohort, 89.7% graduated. So for our foster care students labeled foster care, we had about 61.7% graduation rate. What can we do to make that higher? We want all of our students to graduate. As soon as we know who they are, we want to ensure that they're meeting their needs, whether you know that they're foster care or not. We want to make sure all of our students are on their road to graduation. So how can we meet their needs? How can we assist them? What information could we provide them to share to ensure that they're going to graduate in post-secondary opportunities? We want to have that discussion too, and we're going to talk about that within this webinar also. And then let's go to the dropout rate. So with the state of Texas in the blue, the dropout rate was 6.4%. So 6.4% of the students dropped out. Look at our foster care dropout rate. We have 27% of our foster care students dropping out before graduation. we must change this number. That number needs to be lower. What interventions do you have on your campuses? What practices do you incorporate in order to catch those students before they get to the point of that they want to drop out? So those are the opportunities that we have as educators to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our students. What interventions have you thought about? What good best practices do you have in your area or in your districts that are pursuing students in foster care, so we can help promote that post-secondary and get them over the line to graduation? So this next data point, we want to make sure we share that our students in foster care, they may have other identification pieces. So we have foster care in other special populations. So our foster care, you may have a student who is in foster care who is also in military. You may have students who are in foster care who are also receiving special education services. We want to make sure we identify that, because if you know a student who is receiving special education services who are also foster care, remember, that's a lot of people who should be in the room discussing the student, making sure they're getting all the information and all the academic needs that they have. So we want to make sure that you know that if the student is also foster care and also emerging bilingual, what are you doing to meet the needs of that student? So it is good to know that all the other aspects of those students. And remember, we got this information from the fall 2021 snapshot, PEEM snapshot. So we'll be updating this information too, but we also want you to look at your local district data. So pull your district data about your students in foster care so you can find ways to make sure you are meeting their needs also. I want to highlight the last two on this chart. You have foster students who are economically disadvantaged and also foster care who are at risk. And those numbers are different. Those numbers should be the same. So we want to make sure we are labeling our students correctly within our student management systems. So if our student is in foster care, they're also at risk. And if they're labeled foster care, they should also be labeled economically disadvantaged. So we want to make sure we provide those supports and look at that information. So if you are your district's foster care liaison, please look at that information, pull that information for your district and look at that and how they label and fix those and correct those. And we want to make sure that all of our students get all of the information and support they need based upon some of those identifications. So let me go back. Here we go. So please pull your district foster care data. You have the capacity to pull that data information and start providing support based upon that data. So don't forget your data points for your students in foster care. So the important data that we do share is our graduation and dropout rate. But don't forget, you have other ways that you can support your students in foster care by pulling that information and that data also. So now let's go into our next portion. Our next portion is foster care and the law. So now we're going to get into the realm of all the information that is provided and what should we be doing for our students in foster care. So I hope you're following along with me. I'm trying not to go too fast. Here we go. Every Student Succeed Act. So the Every Student Succeed Act in 2016 pulled foster care apart from our homeless McKinney-Vento eligible students. So usually it was together, but then in 2016, it pulled apart. And here are ways that they wanted to make sure that we're supporting our students in foster care. This chart is a very important chart. It is in our chapter 8 of our foster care and student success guide. So if you have the guide and you're following along with me as I go through this presentation, it will help you out. So this is chapter 8, page 89. This is the exact same chart that is in the foster care and student success guide, because I want to make sure that you have the exact information that you need to go back and support your students. So this uses the educational stability provision. So this is what we use in order to provide support to our students in foster care, the ESSA requirements. This is the basic overview for it. So we are supposed to talk about school of origin for our students in foster care, our education best interest determination, what should happen during that process. The streamline of transitions. You are to be able to support those transitions. Remember earlier, I spoke about mobility, our students being mobile from one placement to a next placement. How are we streamlining that transition to support our students? Also, the designated points of contact. There should be a designated point of contact. I'm going to go over that information also. Transportation. It is very important regarding working out transportation for our students in foster care, and the school district and DFPS working together. Next, dispute resolution. So if there are any disputes between the education portion and the child welfare portion, what are we doing to support that dispute resolution process? Because there should be a process in place. And then lastly, data collection and reporting. So I stated before, certain things are reported. They're required by the Every Student Succeed Act to report this information. So our data for students in foster care, we must report our academic achievement, our dropout data, our graduation information. That is information that must be reported to be based upon ESSA requirements. So just wanted to talk about that information. I'll go through and talk about each one of these, and we actually created resources to help all of the streamlining of these services for the students in foster care. So we have resources for you regarding the ESSA requirements. So we're going to be talking about that today too. So here we go, the Texas Administrative Code. Now we've talked about ESSA, which is federal. Let's bring it to the state level now. So what did we do as a state in order to support our students in foster care? So we have the transition assistance for highly mobile students who are homeless or in substitute care. So this rule goes for our McKinney-Vento eligible students and our students in substitute care, which is our foster care students. So that is another way of saying foster care. So these rules within the main rule, we have subsections in chapters and sections in the rule that requires to both of our students. So some requires both for both students, and some requirement just goes for foster care students. So we have actually had trainings regarding this transition assistance rule. We have the actual rule you're able to locate on our website. At the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you where to go get those resources. So please make sure you stand on to the end. So we have those resources for you already. You can look at the actual wording of the rule. Then provided you tools to incorporate the rule, to incorporate this transition assistance rule. So within the rule, we talk about transfer of student records and transcripts, because you do have a allotted amount of time to transfer those students' records. Once they are requested, you have 10 days to make sure the requesting school gets the students' records through TREX. So you must know this information. And remember, all of this information is in the foster care and student success guide. I'm not going over anything today that's not in the foster care and student success guide. So please make sure you have that guide. That is your main thing to use when you have questions or concerns about anything foster care, especially any questions about data, any questions about transportation. Have you checked your foster care and student success guide? That's the first thing I want to ask you when you ask questions. The next one, development of systems to ease transitions and establish procedures to lessen the adverse impact of movement of a student. So do you have things in place to lessen that impact of mobility of our students in foster care and McKinney-Vento eligible students? So what do you have in place? What district supports are in place? That's what that section is about. Section 89.1607 talks about the evaluation of student records for students who are homeless or in substitute care. So how are you evaluating those transcripts? What processes do you have in place to evaluate those transcripts to ensure that a student is not taking a course over, that they started a course? It talks about how are you looking at those course credits? What are you building? How information about that. So we want you to make sure you go check it, make sure you look at this Texas Administrative Code. We provide you a lot of information about how you can support students. And then the last one for this page is placement in educational programs. So how are you placing your students in educational programs and courses? What are you doing to make sure your students are in the correct courses, are receiving the correct placement in educational programs? Are you considering those students for GT? Just because they are highly mobile does not mean they cannot qualify for GT services. So please make sure you are looking at that process also. Next, promotion of access to educational and extracurricular programs and summer programs. We give you information about that and what rules should be in place regarding extracurricular programs and summer programs. The information is in this rule, so we want to make sure that you are aware of this. Then the promotion of post-secondary information. How are you promoting post-secondary information to your students in foster care and your McKinney-Vento eligible students? What are your current practices? What do you have in place? We have information that will help support your processes. So please make sure you're looking at this information. Next, the provision of special education services. Remember, adhere to those special education timelines. We want to make sure that that information is directly stated for you within this rule. And then the last one, notice the student's educational decision maker and caseworker. Remember, this one would only apply to students in foster care. This only applies to students in foster care. A notice of when to notify the student's educational decision maker. When would you do that? Why would you do that? And making sure you understand the requirements for that. So we want to make sure that you have that information. Everything is within this information. So here we go. So for those questions asking me about all these resources, here you go. Here's step one, a part of the resources. Here is a QR code to our Transition Assistance Toolkit. So here at TEA, we went through the rules for you. We went through the rule, we gathered the information, and we're providing you with best practices and strategies to incorporate all of these rules, because we want to make sure that you have the information and it is able for you to start utilizing within your district. So please utilize this QR code within here. So we talk about nutrition benefits. We talk about the enrollment conference, because within this transition assistance rule, enrollment conference should be held within the first 2 weeks or as soon as feasible when the student enrolls in your campus. So you must have an enrollment conference. And then we talk about what things you can talk about within that enrollment conference. We have the here in this guide. Also a student welcome packet, requirements and best practices. We have that information for you also on here. What could you do with the enrollment packet? Remember, the enrollment packet, you have already an enrollment packet. What we want you to do is add certain things within that enrollment packet that will address some needs of students in foster care. It's not a separate packet. You don't have to go and create a separate packet. Just go through the checklist that we have on this toolkit and ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students in foster care based upon the enrollment packet that you already have. And then the last one is schools introductions to ease transitions. So we want to make sure we ease those transitions for our students. That's the whole point. When our students are going through something, we want to make sure as they come to our campuses, as they come to our district, that we're easing those supports for our students. We have processes in place. You have things in place to make sure the students are helped and understand what is happening. So we want to make sure that you have this information. Here on the next slide, I told you that we have the information about the transition assistance. Here it is. And one of the information, and we also provided 2 webinars based on the transition assistance rule. I just showed you the toolkit we provided, and we talk about the toolkit within those 2 webinars also that's on YouTube. So if you scan the QR code, you will get the actual wording of the rule, the actual law. So I just want to make sure that you have this information. So please make sure you are addressing the newly enrolled students, that you have 2 weeks or as soon as feasible of enrollment to have that enrollment conference. It is very important because that's when you find out information about the student and how you can properly assist the student while they're on your campus. Also receiving that welcome packet with the information and the resources about the school. That will help ease those transitions also. And then provide a warm introduction to that school, provide a tour, have those student ambassadors help that student around, introduce them to the campus. And remember those nutrition benefits. As soon as the student enrolls, they are to receive free lunch as soon as enrollment. As soon as that student is enrolled, that means you should have processes in place to speak with the nutrition manager about ensuring that that student receives free lunch, because the student is in foster care, they are in conservatorship, they automatically receive free nutrition benefits. So we want to make sure you have all of this information. And before I move on, just covering a couple of questions that I see. Accessing the foster care and student success guide. It is on our website. We actually have a whole website dedicated, a web page dedicated straight to the foster care and student success guide, and I will provide that information within this presentation. Just want to make sure that you will receive this recording. It will be on our website, our TEA website, highly mobile and at-risk student programs on TEA's website. If you want to just look through it now, you can go to the bar at the top, hit academics, go to highly mobile and at-risk students, and you'll see foster care student success. And we also have a link there to our foster care and student success guide there also, but you will get that information within this webinar. So I'm not on mute and I have it all the way up loud. So hopefully everyone can hear me. So just want to make sure that I'm trying to get to everyone's information. So let's keep going. Here we go. So with foster care and student success guide, remember I talked about earlier about your student management systems. There are PEIMS coding for students in foster care. I want to provide you what the actual the chart and table look like. So this is the code table for our students in foster care. So if your registers are working with and filling out and registering students, this is the information that you will have regarding those students in foster care. So this is how you correctly classify students in foster care. And I will go through the paperwork and all of that in order to make sure they get this identification. So for C196 is the actual table, the PEIMS chart for our students in foster care. So you will code them a 0 if the student is not currently in conservatorship of the Department of Family and Protective Services. So that should mostly be the bulk of your student population. They would get a code 0 if you're coding all students. The student should be given a code of 1 if the student is currently in conservatorship of the Department of Family Protective Services. So if you have proper information, proper documentation to code the student a number 1. And I will be going over documentation within this webinar too. Some of y'all are getting questions before I get there. I'm getting there. So we want to make sure we code a 1 if you have that proper documentation. So codes 2 and 3 are going only used for our pre-kindergarten students. So pre-kindergarten only uses codes 2 and 3. So code 2, it goes for pre-kindergarten students who was previously in conservatorship of Texas DFPS. So we want to make sure if we have any pre-K students who are coming to us and they were previously in conservatorship of Texas DFPS, you give them a code 2. Code 3, we recently got code 3 within the past 2 years. So we want to make sure we understand those students who are coded 3 if the student is in or has ever been in foster care in another state or territory, but they currently reside in the state of Texas. that student gets a code of 3. So we want to make sure you understand that. So codes 2 and 3 are for pre-kindergartners. Codes 1 are for all students you have proper documentation for, and code 0 are for information for students who are not in conservatorship. And I have a question about code 1 for temporary and permanent place. Yes, if those students are in conservatorship. Remember, TMC, PMC, they're in conservatorship. If you have proper documentation for that student, they should get that code of 1 if you have that information. And Annette, you're just ahead of me. I'm getting to that next one. Just a moment. I'm so glad y'all are participating and being with me today. Here we go with the next question of what documentation do you need for code 3? Here we go. So foster care PEIMS code of 3 is our Texas Education Code section 29.1536B to extend free pre-kindergarten eligibility to children who are or have been in foster care in another state or territory, but currently reside in the state of Texas. So some acceptable documentation that is needed is the official paperwork from the state or county welfare system where that student is in conservatorship, any foster care documents stating closure of the case, redacted court documents, adoption paperwork by the originating state. So you want to make sure you have that information. All this information is needed in order to code that student a number 3. So remember, for any of these codings, you must have proper documentation. We're not just handing the code because somebody said, oh, the student is in conservatorship. You need documentation or to make sure we have our numbers correct. Because remember, go back to the beginning and I talked about data. We want to make sure we have the proper information and the proper numbers for our students who are in conservatorship. So if you want any more information, we do have a foster care FAQ that is also on our website and information. So, and we answer PEIMS questions regarding we answer on the FAQ PEIMS questions number 3 and pre-K questions are number 4 and 5. So for our registers who are working and with our PEIMS coding, we want to make sure that you have foster care PEIMS guidance that you can print out and hand to your registrars who are working with proper identification. This is providing PEIMS coding supplemental guidance regarding what documents are acceptable and what documents are not acceptable for PEIMS coding. So we want to make sure that you understand this information and have this information for you. So hopefully I haven't taken you too far just yet. We've gone over a lot of information so far, and I have a lot of information to go. So we want to make sure that we have this information for you about what we have. So yes, code 3 is only for pre-K only. Remember, at the beginning of the code 3, it has pre-K only. And we want to make sure that you have that information, the proper information readily for you. So now let's head into the foster care liaison, because remember, the foster care liaison is in the Texas Education Code. It is a personnel that everyone in the district should have a foster care liaison. It is a requirement by law. So I wanted to make sure that you actually see the law and know the law so we can make sure everyone in the state is incorporating this correctly. So the Texas Education Code, section 33.904 is liaisons for certain children in conservatorship of the state. That is the title, that is the information. So that each school and open enrollment charter shall appoint at least one employee to act as a liaison officer to facilitate the enrollment in or transfer to a public school to open enrollment charter school of a child in a district or area served by charter who is in conservatorship of the state. So you should have someone who is acting as that in liaison if that student is transferring in, transferring out, and in the enrollment process. Also, submit the liaison's name and contact information to the agency in the format under the schedule determined by the commissioner. So we do have every district within the state and open enrollment charter should provide TEA their foster care liaisons information, their name and their contact information. This information is housed in our ACTED system. I will talk more about ACTED in just a moment. So we want to make sure that we're enacting all requirements of this law. Also, the agency shall provide information to the liaisons on the practice for facilitating the enrollment in or transfer to a public charter school with students who are in conservatorship. So that's what TEA is doing right now. This is one of the many resources that we're helping facilitate this practice to help liaisons. I showed you information about our transition assistance toolkit. I provided you information about different other foster care webinars that we have provided also, and we provide information about that. So we want to make sure that we're providing you with information about students in foster care and what you should be doing as a foster care liaison. And remember, foster care liaison has a whole chapter in the foster care and student success guide. Chapter 5 is foster care and liaison. It talks about all the information and requirements for students in foster care. So, expectations for foster care liaisons. What is expected of our foster care liaisons? We want to make sure that our foster care liaisons know, and information is updated in the access system on TEA's website. So if you go to TEA's homepage website, at the top in red, there is a button that says Ask TED. And we want to make sure that you are able to go in there and look at any information from any school district within the state of Texas. And you're able to pull up that information. You're able to pull up the foster care liaison and also the McKinney-Vento liaison. You can pull up that person for each individual school district. Remember, you must keep this information updated within your district. Every district has an ACTED administrator. So if the information changes, please make sure it is updated within the system because it helps all of us. So if we're looking for a foster care liaison in a certain district within the state, we're able to go to the ACTED system and pull that person's name and contact information up. Remember, that's required by law. Also, implement systems of ease, support, and transition for students in foster care. So within your district, what processes and procedures do you have in place to support students in foster care? We have provided you federal requirements and state requirements, but as a foster care liaison, you can make sure you have district processes and procedures in place for those students in foster care. And everyone in the district should know those processes and procedures. Make sure you're providing professional development to everyone in the district, especially those who are working with students in foster care, so they know what are the requirements, the processes, and procedures for your district. And that's the last one, facilitate those trainings, coordinate those departments. So you have a student who come enrolling and they're in foster care and they also have special education requirements. Make sure you have all those parties in the room to discuss that child to ensure that we're meeting the needs of that student, and also providing technical support. So if you have questions within your schools, you have that foster care liaison in your district who should be your first point of contact for any foster care concerns regarding information regarding students in foster care. So please make sure you have that information. So let's cover some things about getting started. So if you are a brand new foster care liaison and they just said, here you go, this is make sure that we're meeting all the requirements. You are a foster care point of contact and you're trying to figure out what you need to do. Here's a quick slide for you. So this will help you start your processes and make sure that you are meeting the needs of students in foster care. So foster care point of contact. So if you are the district foster care point of contact and you have a lot of campuses within your district, guess what? A best practice would be to have foster care champions on each one of those campuses. Make sure you're training them. Make sure you let them understand, know what should be happening with those students when they come to enroll. You want to ensure that you have someone that's on that campus, especially if you're in a huge district. If you're in a small district, it still would be good to have those foster care champions on different campuses because you're one person. You can't be in one place at all times. So please provide other information to others who are able to support their students in foster care also. Implement those school transition requirements. So that toolkit, that transition assistant toolkit I showed earlier, print those out for everyone in your district. Everyone can have that document to say, this is our processes and procedures that we're utilizing for our students in foster care. Also, streamlining those enrollment processes. What happens when the student comes to enroll and they present you with the proper documentation for that student is in conservatorship? What should happen? What is your district's processes regarding that? Everyone should know what to do and how to proceed and information that should be taken. So making sure that the foster care liaison leads that effort and making sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to do. Accurately identify students in PIMS. And we just talked about that. We just talked about PIMS. I showed you the code table, making sure that it is properly documented. The nutrition benefits start on day one. As soon as they enroll, those nutrition benefits starts right then, and provide supports to students. So what supports do you have in place? If the student, showing the student around to the campus, showing them the principal's office, assistant principal's office, where the counselor's office is, going around and providing that information to the student is providing supports to the student. Also coordinate the withdrawal and transfer process. So if the student is withdrawal, if they had an emergency withdrawal and they had another placement, facilitating getting all of that documentation to either the case manager or the guardian and providing that information to the next school that that child goes to. So we want to make sure we are providing that access to those areas. Working with DFPS and the educational specialists. If you have any questions regarding students in foster care, guess what? DFPS has educational specialists that are able to provide you with support. I'm going to talk about them too in this training and tell you who they are. And they are classified by county within the state of Texas. Provide training to your district. Foster care liaisons should be providing trainings to your districts regarding your district processes and procedures regarding students in foster care. Coordinating with the school counselor to ensure that that child is on track for graduation. Keeping up with that student, encouraging transitions and post-secondary opportunities, making sure the student knows that information. Within the transition assistance rule, there is mandatory if the student's in 11th and 12th grade that somebody was supposed to sit down with that student and provide them with post-secondary opportunities. It's in the rule. So it's good to know those rules and read them in order to make sure we are meeting the needs of our students. And then lastly, promote practices that are aligned with the Texas law. And that's why I took all the time to go through the Texas law. I didn't go in depth, but I provided you information to where we provided webinars where we did go into detail about what you're supposed to do within that law for our students in foster care. So here we are, DFPS and ESC. So we know our education service centers in the state of Texas, we have 20 of those, but with DFPS, they have 12 regions and really 11. Their 12th region is their state office in Austin. So 11 regions for DFPS that has educational specialists. Those educational specialists are there to support you. And some of them are probably on this call right now. So they do a great job in supporting our schools and supporting the students in conservatorship. So if any district has a concern or a question about even the process, they are able to reach out to your DFPS educational specialist within your county and support you. So please make sure you're reaching out to them. Also, in every ESC, we have a foster care champion. In some regions, we have 2. So we want you, if you are having questions regarding certain supports, Please make sure you're reaching out to your ESC foster care champion. They are there to support you too, and they're in your area, they're in your region. Remember, I work for the TEA, so I'm here for the state. But if you want a question answered really quickly, and reaching out to your ESC would probably be your best bet, and making sure you're contacting them regarding any concerns or questions or problems that you're having, because they're able to provide you with great support. So I do meet with our ESCs, foster care champions. I'm so happy to have them. We work great together. So, and they have a lot of great, valuable information. This ESC foster care champions, this is some of them, because I do have to change some names on here, but majority of them, yes, these are your ESC foster care champions at region. And remember, some of them have two at your region. So please reach out to them for support. If you're having any questions, some of the questions that I'm getting on here today should be asked to your ESC foster care champions. You have access to them. Please make sure you're reaching out to them. Remember, you can also search them in XTED also. If you want to search who is Region 11's foster care liaison, you can pull that information up through XTED also. And then for our DFPS, educational specialists, here's a list. They are also, this information is on our foster care and student success website under liaisons. All you have to do is click liaisons, and all of this information will come up on our TEA website right now. So this is great, valuable information. So now let's continue. This is the information that everybody wants to see. What is the proper documentation in order to classify a student as foster care or being in conservatorship? What information does the school need in order to make sure we're properly identifying students in PEEMS? This is the information. So we have 3 required documentation needs, especially for students in conservatorship. So you have your DFPS placement authorization, your form 2085. So if you hear us talking or we're having a conversation, we say, oh, did you have their 2085? This is the information that we're talking about. So the DFPS placement authorization form is 2085. That is important to have, along with the DFPS designated education decision maker form, which we call the 2085E. This is important to have, because this tells you who is your emergency contact for the student while they are at school. You need to know who's making the education decisions for this student while they're in conservatorship. The 2085E will tell you that information. So you need that form also. And then if you don't have those 2 information, you can also use your court order. So the court order that is stating who is permanent or temporary manager and conservator over that student. You can use the court information also. One thing I want you to remember, all of this information is confidential. This is not information that you stick into the student's cumulative files. No, this is information that should have another file somewhere else, but you know you are labeling them within your student management systems as students in conservatorship. But this information should not be just readily available for any and everybody. So, but the 2085 is a series of forms. So as long as it has a 2085 at the beginning of it, it is acceptable. So the 2085 series, you have the foster care residential care form, so 2085 FC. Then you have the kinship or non-foster caregiver is 2085 KO, and then also the legal risk 2085 LR. These documents are mandatory in order to classify a student as being in conservatorship when they are enrolling on your campus. Make sure you have this information. It is the 2085 or the 2085E or any of those 2085 series, the series of documentation. So please make sure you have that information. Our signatures are required in order for the forms to be available. You should not have and remember, this information, all the documentation of what it looks like is in the foster care and student success guide in the appendix. We have the actual forms and what they look like, and I'm going to show you that also. But make sure they are signed. Remember, you cannot accept documentation of forms without appropriate signatures. So here's the 2085 placement authorization form. This is what it looked like. It is 4-page document. What I'm showing you on here now is the beginning of page 1 and page 4, because remember, you must have signatures, and please look at that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the case manager that's on that documentation, or you do have your DFPS educational specialist that you can reach out to for assistance also. So please make sure this is the form that you are looking at, the 2085. This is the beginning. This is the front portion of it. Make sure it has all the students' information on there, their name, birthday. You must know that information in order to make sure you're placing the student correctly. And please make sure it has signatures on the last page. And remember, I just talked about all the series of the 2085. Here's what the 2085E looks like. This is for the education decision maker. This is for the emergency contact. This is for the person who you contact if there's any concerns for that student on the campus while they're there. This information here provides you with that person's contact information. Who is the person making decisions for this student? This is the key personnel. A question that I'm receiving is, the documentation counts if it's current for the year, correct? The documentation for the 2085, if you get a 2085 at the beginning of the school year, remember, foster care is temporary placement. Should it last the entire school year? It may last the entire school year. When the school year comes back up, let's just say 24-25 school year comes back up, you should be recertifying those students, meaning they should have a new 2085, because you don't know if the student stayed in that placement or went to another placement. So please make sure you are looking at that. And we also answer that question in our foster care and student success guide. Please make sure you are asking for updates of 2085 paperwork, because you don't know, the student's placement may change. So you want to make sure you have that information of the updated change. So immunizations provision enrollment. So if the student is coming to you and they do not have, and I'm on the third box, the student is homeless or in foster care, the student shall be admitted temporarily for 30 days. If acceptable evidence of vaccination is not available, the school shall promptly refer the student to appropriate health provider to obtain required vaccinations. So that's why we say it is immediate enrollment. You do, for students in foster care, if they have that 2085, it is immediate enrollment. So, and if they do not have the proper paperwork for vaccination, they still are required to 30 days. They have 30 days to provide you with birth certificates. They have 30 days to provide you with vaccination records. So we still have immediate enrollment for our students. So please make sure you have that information. And I have a question in here. Is the education decision maker also the person that needs to be invited to ARTS? Yes, with an exclamation point. Make sure you are inviting the education decision maker to any decisions that are being made for that student. They should be there, because they are the education decision maker. Thank you for asking that question. So the education best interest coordination. So along the Texas Association for School Boards, TASB, and TEA, we work together in order to make resources available for schools. So this is an education best decision maker. Remember in ESSA, I talked about education best decisions determination. This is one of the ways that you can do that, where the school is working along with the child welfare, also working along with the education decision maker about information for that student. Are we determining the best means for this student at this time? So please make sure you are, if you are having questions about some decisions that are happening with the student, this form will be great to use in order to guide the conversation. So please make sure you are utilizing these forms, and they're on our TEA foster care resource page. We have it there for you. We want to make sure that you are using this information. And also for transportation template. So if you are having transportation discussions for a student in foster care, there is a template you can use in order to make sure you're having meetings regarding that. If you need to have a meeting to determine who is going to be responsible for transportation, this form is great to use to start that conversation. Because if there are any questions or determinations that need to be made, please utilize this form as your basis, as your agenda. Now, this form is, you can use it any of your means. You can use it for your means of how you want to in your district. This is just a guide. It's just a template. So you can use it how you need to, but please make sure you have some paper or forms or documents that are useful for you. So reminders for students in foster care. So remember, foster care liaison, you must have one. Your district must have a foster care liaison. Identification and documentation, your 2085 and your 2085E, important information that you must have. Please make sure you're having that. Immediate enrollment. Remember, if your student's coming to you and they're enrolling to your campus and they have that proper documentation, there must be immediate enrollment. School nutrition benefits start on day one, and then provide training to your staff and also collaborate with child welfare. These all are great things to start our foster care liaisons. If you have new foster care liaisons, this is like your cheat code. So please make sure you utilize this information and make sure you're utilizing this information to provide great resources and access to our students in foster care. So now we're going to pause for a little processing here. So hopefully you have received a lot of information so far, and I'm going through, this is really a basic 101. So this is like what you really need to do when you are working with students in foster care. So please make sure you have so far the information you need. So I'm going through and looking at some of the information. So what if the conservator does not provide current documentation? How can we try to follow up with requesting current documentation? Thank you for that question. Please make sure you are following up your DFPS educational specialist for your county. They are very reactionable. They are able to help search that information for you and get that documentation to you. So please make sure you know who your DFPS educational specialist is for your county. You can also contact your region, your ESC foster care champion, because they work alongside the DFPS educational specialist. So they'll have direct access to them also. They have their contact information. So please make sure you reach out to them also. So that is a good question. Thank you. So hopefully this has sparked information about ways that you can work within your district about how helping students in foster care. What can you do? Because we have a lot of information that is required. A question just came in. What should a campus do if immunization records are not provided within the 30-day time frame? Remember, you have information for the child welfare. You have information for the information regarding that student for their DFPS educational specialist. You can reach out to them. You can reach out to the guardian, because we want to make sure we're contacting them and receiving the information, and they're doing everything that they're supposed to do to help promote that child. So making sure you're reaching out to them, because that is within that 30-day time frame, because they do have time frames for them also. Okay, just want to make sure I give you all these resources. So we're going to promote student success, and I'm going to go through this area because there's a lot of information in this area also. So in chapter 10 of our foster care and student success guide on page 102, this information is very important. This chapter was included when the foster care and student success guide was Version 2 came out in March of 2022. So the guide has been out for over a year now. This information is within the guide because we want to make sure that you are responding in trauma-informed practices on your campus. As I stated before, there was a reason that the student came into conservatorship, abuse or neglect. We don't want to create additional trauma as they come to our campuses. So is your campus trauma-informed? Do you have practices? We want to create a school environment that is safe. The child feels connected. They feel like the school is involving them and have good practices. So we want to provide you with information in order to make sure your school and your district is trauma informed. Because remember, according to the law, it requires LEAs to train the staff on grief informed and trauma informed practices. So make sure when you're providing trainings, if you're the foster care liaison, when you're providing trainings, don't forget to add that trauma informed practices aspect within your trainings. So here, did you know that DFPS educational specialists, they offer specialized trainings for trauma-informed care and classroom strategies. So you can also make sure you reach out to them if you would like for them to come to ours, any transition plannings for students, any circles of supports for our students who are in juvenile justice facilities. So please make sure you're reaching out to your DFPS educational specialists. And I showed you their names, and remember, you can look them up by county. And we provided you with that information in our website. And also it's in the Foster Care and Student Success Guide. This information is on page 106. So how can we promote that coursework for our students in foster care? Promoting that post-secondary or post-graduation career information. We want to make sure they understand all the opportunities that they have for them in post-secondary. So we want to make sure that foster care students, if they miss school, who is contacting them regarding how are they doing? Who is that point of contact on that campus to make sure they're supporting those students in foster care? If they're getting too many absences, what are your procedures and processes for contacting that guardian and then also contacting your case manager? If you need to contact their case manager, if something supports are going on with that student, we want to make sure they come to school. We want to make sure that they are not having too many tardies. They don't have too many absences, and we want to ensure proper documentation for that student. So we want to make sure we're providing that support to our students. So the college tuition and fee waiver. This is very important information. Our youth who are eligible for college tuition and fee waive in Texas state-supported colleges and universities, public medical schools, public dental schools, public junior colleges, and public technical institutions. Students in foster care are eligible to receive this college and tuition fee waiver. That means that youth must have been in DFPS conservatorship before an adoption or permanent management conservatorship was granted to be eligible for college tuition and fee waiver. So there are a lot of information that goes into college tuition and fee waiver, but remember, it's there for them. So we want to make sure they know about activating it and know that they must enroll in a college course before the age of 25 to activate college tuition and fee waiver for their life. So we want to make sure that they know this. They can go to college for free. They can go to a technical school for free. If they don't want to go to a university, they can go to a public junior college or a technical school. We want to make sure that they know this information and they have it readily for them. So a note that tuition and fee waiver is verified in the form of a letter from the Texas Department of Family Protective Services. This does not go through TEA. So I know we get some of those questions sometimes. Well, how do we confirm this information? Make sure you go through the information based upon Texas DFPS. They will confirm that information. And all of this is in our foster care and student success guide on page 143. Here we go, Education and Training Voucher Program. This is on page 143 in our Foster Care and Student Success Guide. Just want to make sure you're aware of this. And I see Drew Melton is here, who works with the ETV program within the state of Texas. Make sure you reach out to him. He's available to come to your schools and contact you and speak more about the ETV program. So make sure you have this information to your students. Your 11th and 12th grade students should know all of this information, and it's here for them. You can provide this information to them so they know that they can have up to $5,000 in assistance per year. They can spend it on books, they can spend it on living assistance, any school related things they can have. So we want to make sure that they have this information readily available to them. This is good information, everyone. So free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. It has a question in the FAFSA regarding conservatorship. Please make sure your students in foster care are answering that question, because remember, it goes to the colleges and provides them information and say, okay, ding, this student was in conservatorship. Make sure they have a certain scholarship ready for them or information ready for them. So please make sure you're supporting your students in conservatorship, especially when they're answering the FAFSA, and especially when they're trying to college tuition and fee waiver, and especially when they're going for ETV. These are great information that they have ready, available for them. Just wanted to highlight this. Everyone knows back in 21-22 that was the first year that every enrolled 12th grade, in order to meet graduation requirements, they had to either fill out the FAFSA and fill out the TASFA, the Texas application for state financial aid, or they opted out. But we want to make sure that they fill it out, because we want to ensure that they receive all the information and that they have. So this is great, valuable information. And I have a question. What about kids that have been in temporary conservatorship? Do they get tuition? Remember, all recommendation and all the verification letters go through Texas DFPS. So please make sure they fill out the required information through Texas DFPS. And I'm putting Drew's information just sent, and hopefully you are able to see it in the Q&A. So make sure you reach out to Drew that provided information for you regarding ETV. Thank you so much for coming today, Drew. So now let's get into these great resources that I've been talking about the whole time through this webinar. So I want to make sure we utilize our time good. So we're doing good time. Here we go. So the resources. Foster Care and Student Success Resource Guide webpage. We have a whole webpage just dedicated to the guide. So you can download the guide all as one, or you can download the guide chapter by chapter. So it's up to you. But please, one thing you should do, download the guide, share the guide for all of those who are working with students in foster care. Questions that we're seeing, they are answered within the guide. If you have a question regarding certain things, you are able to open up the guide and go to that chapter and find the answer to that question. Most of the time when I receive questions regarding anything, if I receive a question, you email me a question, guess what? I'm referring to the Foster Care and Student Success Guide. I say in chapter here on page so-and-so, this is where you can find that information. I always refer to the Foster Care and Student Success Guide. So here it is. Here's the actual foster care guide. When the foster care guide was released, I did a foster care guide training series. So I trained through the whole guide. I did an overview of the training of the guide, and then I did a chapter by chapter webinar. All of the webinars is on our Foster Care and Student Success Guide page, Foster Care and Student Success page. You can go on the webpage right now and see every chapter. You can see the PowerPoint, and you can also see the actual you can also see the actual recording for each one of the chapters of the foster care guide, because we want to make sure that you understood the information that is within the guide. So you have the actual foster care guide QR code, and then also the training series. So for those who are new foster care liaisons, guess what? I did the training for you. All you have to do is go through and you can share the recordings and the presentations to your district, and you can provide that information to your district. So please make sure you're utilizing those trainings. So school of origin determination. Remember, I talked earlier about ESSA requirements, and school of origin determination was one of the ESSA requirements. We provided you with an actual document that goes through the school of origin determinations. What is school of origin? What the timeline applies for the school of origin, and what determines the best interest for school of origin. Then we also provided you with 4 scenarios of ways school of origin is used. So please make sure you're downloading this document and utilizing this document. It is very helpful. It's on our foster care and student success webpage. It's in information and resources. All of this information I'm getting ready to show you is on one webpage on TEA's website. So this is newly released information, brand new. We released this during our foster care and education summit that we had in September of 2023. We had information that we want to make sure we provide you with more guidance, better guidance to help students with education, best interest, decision-making, and coordination. So how can we better make decisions for our students, education, best interest decisions? So the purpose of this was to make sure that the schools know their role, and that DFPS knows the role, and that understand each other's role within this determination. So please make sure you're printing out this document, utilizing this document. It's 2 sides. It's a one-sided document with 2 sides. And one side is regarding emergency school withdrawal. So if the student is taken out of the school based upon placement, the child had to go to another placement, what should happen? What should who would contact the school? What kind of contact will occur? What documentation is needed? Information. We wanted to provide these strategies for you to utilize. On the next side is planned schools withdrawal. So if DSPS is letting you know the student will have a new placement by Friday, this will be the last day on this campus, they're letting you know. So the information on this sheet provides you with what documentation should the child go, how and what information should be put together, who should receive this information. We wanted to make sure that you had all of this ready available for you. So this is a very good information that you should be utilizing. So make sure you print this out too and utilize it. Next, designated points of contact. Remember, that is also an ESSA requirement. So we want to make sure we are following that ESSA guidance. The designated point contact. So remember, each school district has a designated point of contact. DFPS has a designated point of contact, and also the state must have a designated point of contact. I am your state designated point of contact. So you want to say, well, who is the state of Texas designated point of contact for all things foster care? It's Dr. LaTrina Watson. That's me. Then you would say, who is your child welfare point of contact? You have a DFPS educational specialist who is your designated point of contact. And then also for LEAs, each school district must have a designated point of contact. We must know who that designated point of contact is. And by ACT-TED, we ask everyone to place it in ACT-TED. So please make sure you have your district's point of contact in ACT-TED, because there are rules regarding that. What on this document, it provides you with information of how we are contacting each other and what we are the expectations of that contact. So your DFPS education is going to reach out to every district within the state. Remember, DFPS educational specialists are by county. So within that county, they're going to reach out to the school districts and ask who is their point of contact. So if they have a student in conservatorship and they have a question, they can just reach out to your district's point of contact in order to get support. And the districts in the area should do the same with reaching out to the DFPS educational specialists. We're working together to achieve success for our students. The dispute resolution. So this is also new guidance that has been placed out too. So if you have any disputes in your area regarding any anything that's in the benefit of the student in foster care or in conservatorship. Make sure you are following your dispute resolution. So we know most districts have dispute resolution processes. You should be following those, but this also guides you to the dispute levels. So you have level 1, which is a campus level. We want you to try to resolve all disputes at that campus level. But if there still are concerns, it goes to the next level. Level 2 is the district, the LEA level. So within that district, you should be able to resolve that dispute. So if there still is conflict, if there's still conflict and you cannot resolve that dispute, then it goes to the state level, level 3. That's where I am brought in within the state level, within disputes. So we want to make sure that you resolve the disputes at your level 1 or level 2. Because when when I come in, I'm doing a full investigation. Just want to know what's going on, how it's going on, and what's happening. So we following the process. So please make sure you're following your district's dispute process, also utilizing this handout. So please make sure you're utilizing all the resources that we're providing you here. So the self-assessment tool, it goes along. We included our highly mobile population, our group. So you have your foster care, you have your McKinney-Vento eligible students, your homeless students, your military connected students. You are able to monitor your district's programs regarding all those 3 populations. So we want you to use that self-assessment to assess how are you meeting the needs of those students in that area, in those areas. So please make sure you're utilizing the self-assessment tool, the guide, and your self-assessment rubric of how you're doing, what process do you need to make a little bit better. So we want to make sure you are utilizing this goal to support your districts. Next, upcoming training, some more upcoming trainings. I will have, this is Foster Care 101, I will have a 201. In 201, I will be covering all of these documents. I will be covering resources. I will be going in detail about the resources, the purposes for the resources, how you can utilize the resources, because today I just went over and showed you where they were. In 201, I will go in more detail about each one of those resources and how you can utilize them within your districts. So please make sure, for those who attended today in the 101, this was a very, very high overview of foster care. In 201, I will go into the resources that TEA have prepared in order for everyone to know how to support our students in foster care. So please start signing up for Foster Care 201. And I sent, I will be sending out a newsletter soon. So hopefully you signed up for our newsletter. I'll show you at the end how to sign up for a newsletter that will be providing you the registration information for 201. And it's on our website. So if you're on the Foster Care Student Success website of TEA right now, you're able to register right now. So the highly mobile and at-risk webpage, this is our homepage, what it looks like. We provide webinars. So actually we have our webinar number 2. We provide 4 webinars throughout the school year, 23-24 school year. Webinar number 2 is this Thursday. So please make sure you come back this Thursday and register for that. We will be providing updates for all of our areas. So you will receive an update for foster care and student success. You receive an update for Texas Education for Homeless Children and Youth, military connected. And we also have a guest speaker who will be there to provide you more information too about compensatory education. So we please make sure you come back and join us on Thursday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. to get more information that we provide you during this time. This is how you sign up for updates, because I will be sending out a foster care and student success newsletter soon. And when I say soon, within the next week or 2. Please make sure you go and sign up. This is the cover of TEA's homepage. So please sign up for updates, sign up for all of our areas so you can receive updates about all of our programs, please. This is Ask TED search. So remember, I talked to you about Ask TED and how can you search. I'll also let you know how you can search for any of foster care liaisons. I have an actual document for you that's on there. So please make sure you are going through, looking at the foster care webpage. We have a lot of information up there. I will be updating the webpage soon. So please make sure, I want to make it more user-friendly for you. So please make sure you have that information. And I'll go through this part because I used my whole entire time for you today. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Please, if you have any questions, please send them to our inbox, our foster care liaison at tea.texas.gov. So any questions, follow-up questions that you may not have, I didn't get a chance to answer everyone's questions because I want to make sure I get through the webinar today. So if you have a question that you want to ask that I didn't get to today, please send it to foster care liaison at tea.texas.gov. So please make sure you submit this information. For the March, for the foster care 201 training, it was moved up. So it will be changed on the website. Once you click the Zoom link, it tells you January 16th. So just wanted to let you know that. So thank you all for those. That means you're on the website. You're doing a good job. Thank you all for seeing that. But I want to make sure that you come back. Thank you all for attending today. If you have any questions, please send it to that inbox. Also, please fill out the survey because we provide you with a lot of resources and information here. We would love to receive your feedback. So please provide feedback on the webinar today. And also, what would you like to see more of? Because we want to make sure we cater our resources, our benefits, and our helps for you, for the LEAs. We want to cater everything to how you would like to see it and need it. So we want to thank you so much for coming today. Yes, this is recorded. Yes, it will be on our website, just like all of the other webinars. So please make sure if you were unable, if you know somebody who wanted to come and they weren't able to come, tell them, give me a couple of weeks. It will be on our website. The actual PowerPoint presentation and also the recording will be on our website. So I want to thank you all for coming today. Don't forget to fill out that survey. And also, if you have any questions that you did not get answered today, please make sure you send it to foster care liaison at tea.texas.gov. So thank you all for coming today. I hope this was very beneficial to you today. Great information. So hopefully you have one step further in building your LEA's capacity for assisting our students in foster care, because that's what we want to do. So thank you all for coming today and have a great day.